Hi, I'm Scott Apel, your guide to the world of The Prisoner here on Channel 54. Writer Kurt Vonnegut once said, "When someone tells you I love you, it's like having a loaded gun pointed at your head." Well, in tonight's episode, Checkmate, that gun is pointed at the prisoner, and we begin to see that the village will use any weapon at its command to break our hero, even enforced affection. This episode is also quite revealing about the prisoner himself. He shows us both his strength, in that he's a born leader of men, and his weakness for damsels in distress. But in the funhouse mirror of the world that is the village, these traits can be reflected in some wonderfully warped ways. I'll be back after the episode with a look at some of the creative people who made The Prisoner such a unique and intriguing series. Feel free to join me then. After all, it's your move. Well, the symbolism may be obvious, but the message is subtle. Chess is a game of subtle psychological stratagems, but you can't even play the game until you know the rules. The prisoner's fledgling attempt to discover the rules of the game have taught him one thing at least. Nothing psychological is as simple as black and white, especially in the village. But if nothing else, our hero is persistent, and in the episodes to follow, we'll see him gradually refine his newfound knowledge in his continuing attempts to master both the psychology and the technology that holds him captive. In case you're wondering why we moved Checkmate from what was episode 11 to episode 3, we have some answers. First are the obvious clues that this is where Checkmate belongs. The prisoner continues to state that he's new in the village, for instance, and he's still naive enough about the power of the village at this point to rely on an unsophisticated psychological trick, and to think that his escape could be as easy as just breaking out. There's a few more reasons as well, but we'll go into those after next week's episode. You might watch, however, to see who our hero trusts and how far from the village his escape attempts get him. So, we've just seen the prisoner try to organize a group of villagers and fail. Fortunately, in real life, Patrick McGoohan fared much better in a similar task, organizing a group of creative people to produce the Prisoner series. Foremost among these was George Markstein, story editor. Markstein began his career as a crime reporter in Liverpool and London, and following World War II, he became military correspondent for a news magazine for U.S. troops in Europe. This established his passion for tales of intrigue and espionage. Journalism led to television news and documentary work, which in turn led him to a job as a script editor on McGoohan's Danger Man series, which later became Secret Agent on American TV. This, of course, led to The Prisoner. Since those days, Markstein has kept himself busy writing spy novels, which he describes as continuations of the Prisoner themes, and work on films, including co-scripting the 1977 feature The Odessa File. You can see George Markstein in nearly every episode of The Prisoner, as the man behind the desk to whom McGoohan angrily resigns. This is especially ironic considering that it was Markstein who resigned to McGoohan when he became concerned that his spy thriller had been slanted more and more towards the allegorical. The Prisoner's producer was David Tomblin, McGoohan's partner in their Everyman Films company. They had met during the filming of the opening episode of Danger Man, which coincidentally was shot in Portmeirion in Wales, the same resort that served as the site for the village. During the last several years, Tomlin has served as assistant director on such blockbuster motion pictures as Raiders of the Lost Ark, Return of the Jedi, and Gandhi. Another person we'd like to single out is Jack Champan, The Prisoner's art director. Like Markstein and Tomlin and many others in the Prisoner production team, he too was a veteran of Danger Man. His previous credits included The Lavender Hill Mob and Kind Hearts and Coronets, in which he served as senior draftsman, and the 1966 film version of Modesty Blaze as art director. Champan, more than anyone else, was responsible for the atmosphere of the Prisoner's interior sets. It was he who designed the control room, number 2's chambers, and number 6's apartment. He also suggested the bizarre underground caverns in which the final episode takes place. Unfortunately, time prevents us from mentioning the many others who added their own specific touches to The Prisoner. People like Brendan Stafford, the director of photography, and Ron Grainer and Albert Elms, whose wonderful musical motifs gave the series its varied yet distinctive moods. Next week, in the chimes of Big Ben, the prisoner attempts yet another escape, this one with surprising results. Along the way, he learns even more about the village and its customs and inhabitants, and we viewers get a great treat in seeing Leo McKern as the new number 2.